Hello and welcome to MSN The Hub. I'm Ross the Boss. I'm here with Casey, flat to the bone, Shinefold. He's here today, all the way from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
I'm teasing. I love The
You're
Office.
thinking I'm on The Office or something.
You do look like Michael Scott, but we'll talk about that later. Casey, we're here talking about waiver wire. Big week again. All the bye weeks going. I see the schedule coming out. A lot of
6
teams are
teams
not
on
playing.
buys.
Oh,
Baltimore,
half my
Denver,
team is
Houston,
not playing.
Indianapolis, New England, and Washington.
I mean, half my team is not playing this week. That's why
I
we're
know.
here, because we got to use that waiver wire. Let's talk NFL football first, then we'll get to the waiver wire. What is going on in San Francisco, Casey, and the running back situation?
It's Isaac Guerrero time, apparently. He's our cover guy. I mean, first McCaffrey goes down, going to be on the IR. Then Jordan Mason is running well in replacement of him. But then apparently at the end of the game, he screwed up his ankle enough where they're talking about putting him on the IR as well.
Tough times in San Francisco, Case. They're not making the playoffs. You heard it from me first, Ross the Boss. You can quote me on that. San Francisco will be watching the playoffs at home. They had the best odds to make the playoffs and to win the NFC, and now they're not even in the playoffs. It just shows you what injury does to a team and why you should never count your chickens before they hatch. Correct, Casey?
That is correct.
Let's talk about last night. I watched the Broncos, and you and I both were not big Bronco fans starting the year. We both thought they were not going to make the playoffs.
Well, you were a big fan of, let's be honest,
I like Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
I do like Bo Nix, but I didn't think their defense was that great. I didn't think their offense was going to be that great, and I didn't have them winning their division. Well, I don't know if they won the division because of Kansas City, but I didn't have them going to the playoffs. How about that? I mean, I think Denver can battle Kansas City. I think Denver can give Kansas City a good game. I think they can give Buffalo a good game. I think they're a team to be reckoned with. What do you think?
I'm not going to count them out. I mean, other than Buffalo, who in the AFC scares you right now?
Of course, Kansas City. I mean,
look, I'm not denying that they have the best record, but I don't know. You watch them and they won against the Raiders because the Raiders botched a snap at the end of the game. It doesn't feel like, don't get me wrong, I'm never going to bet against Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl, but man, do they look less impressive?
It does not look good. But they do win games by single digits. I mean, they're the kings of doing that. I mean, Carolina took them all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And I mean, they played bad teams badly. And, they're still, one of the rules in betting is you never bet against Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's the number one rule I have in sports betting, is you never bet against Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. If you do, you lose. Yeah. Fail. Let's talk waiver wire case. And one more thing I want to talk about, because I know we don't talk about kickers really that much on our show, but somebody who's really failing this year, and I had him as like the all-time greatest kicker in NFL history, is Justin Tucker. I mean, Casey,
he's been struggling.
This guy is just horrible. And I'm not saying he's bad, but he's horrible. And Boswell, the kicker for Pittsburgh, all that guy does is hit field goals. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad Tucker has got. And I mean, he's waivable now. I said it. I mean, he was one of the kickers I would never waive, but now he's waivable, especially in a bye week.
There's very few kickers in my belief that aren't waivable in some way. I know the best of the best can be the difference and very high scoring, but I tend to stream kickers and defenses. You know that.
I know you do, but I just had to bring that in just because I watched the.
Good afternoon, game. Albert. Thanks for joining the show again.
I watched that Baltimore game, KC, and it was just tough to watch Tucker. I mean, I can't believe how far he's gone down the pole. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, he's missing field goals to the left and to the right, and then he's just, I don't know where his head's at, but he's probably just cringing at himself. And again, Baltimore's on a bye week, so it's a good time to waive them, folks. Waive Tucker. Let's talk waiver wire. Casey, who's your number one waiver wire pickup for this week? Who am I putting into
Well,
my little system and telling everybody I want to pick up this guy? Who is it?
obviously, it's Isaac Correndo. I don't think anybody would tell you differently this week. I mean, to get a number one running back in week 14 for a team like San Francisco, who is still desperately trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, that's somebody who could potentially carry you through the playoffs. And if you're a free agent budget guy, this is the guy you bust your budget on.
Yeah, we're in week 14, correct? I mean, we just spend the whole amount on him. I think that's a great idea. He is going to be the running back for the rest of the year. Mason's out and McCaffrey's out. McCaffrey, I don't know if you guys saw the game, but basically he was handed the ball off in that horrible snow bowl, and he knew it was a non-contact injury. I mean, he came running to the sidelines, and he told the coach there's something wrong. And right when I saw him in his face, I knew season over. And they interviewed the coach at halftime, I think, or maybe between quarters, I can't remember. But he even said McCaffrey's not coming back. And then we all got the alerts on the phone about McCaffrey. It's so funny. Everybody's phones pings, and it's like, oh, it's McCaffrey. He's not coming back. It's like national news. It's, whatever. But so McCaffrey's out for the year, which is, would you say he's the number one biggest bust?
I think he's got to be. I mean,
history. So being the number one.
Well,
pick.
I don't know about fantasy football history, but he definitely is this year, and definitely of recent history.
But being the number one pick, I mean, he's going
to miss what, 13 games, something like that.
I don't know. I mean, you wasted your first pick on him when you could have got Henry or Barkley or, Dr. Dan Ratner. I mean, you could have got all these people. I mean, it's just a shame. But again, I told our group of fans and our audience that, yes, don't pick McCaffrey. He's a big risk, and he is going
everybody
to get
knew
hurt,
the bust potential. And we said he had over 400 touches last year, so that always increases the risk.
So somebody I have on my waiver wire, because I have a bunch of guys like C.J. Stroud and I have a couple other quarterbacks who are not playing this week. I'm picking up Russell Wilson after what he did to the Bengals, over 400 yards and all those touchdowns. And they're not the Steelers of the past when it was like, oh, run the ball, pass, run, pass. Now it's like pass the ball in the first down. I mean, their offense is revitalized with Russell Wilson and Casey. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I thought Fields was doing a good job, but I'm wrong. I mean, with Wilson now, they're one of the favorites to make this. They're not favorites. They're like, I think they're 10-1, but they're a team I would not want to play in the playoffs. How about that, Casey? They're a team I would stay away from in the playoffs. I mean, they can take down Kansas City. They can take down Buffalo. I mean, they're a team to be reckoned.
Oh yeah, and
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they have all the pieces for it. Russell Wilson has some tough matchups coming up. That's going to make. I mean, he's got the Eagles. He's got the Chiefs.
Yeah,
he's got Cleveland and the Ravens also.
Yeah, the Ravens' defensive backs are horrible, probably the worst in the league.
I don't know.
They're pretty bad.
Did you watch your Cincinnati Bengals against the Steelers this weekend and those defensive backs?
You're talking about a team when Cincinnati's healthy, their offense clicks. They were healthy and they click. Their defense can't click. They're horrible.
Oh my gosh!
But if you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase playing at the same time, it's pretty hard to guard those two. I mean, I'm just being realistic.
No, but I'm saying their secondary, though, looked like they weren't guarding anybody.
Yeah, well, the Eagles aren't that great. I think Russell Wilson, whoever you start right now in fantasy, not in a game, but in your little fantasy world, Casey Scheinfeld, Pat Mahomes or Russell Wilson?
Patrick Mahomes.
Bo Nix or Patrick Mahomes?
Well, Nix is on bye, so I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes.
Rest of the season?
I'd have to look at the
schedules.
You have to remember, Mahomes is getting Hollywood Brown back, they're saying. So he's going to get some weapons back too. I mean, Bo Nix wasn't great last night. They won, but he wasn't great.
He had over 250 yards. He was okay. He had some touchdown passes. He was okay.
Aiden O'Connell looked really good this week, and they have favorable matchups coming up at quarterback.
Oof.
I'm sorry.
Case, who else is on your waiver wire list? Who am I picking up this week? We're not going to do quarterback, running back, wide receiver. We're just going to
All
mesh
right,
it up and put it all
I'll name
together.
one of each. I think Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville is back on the radar as a pickup. He's only 32.5% owned.
What did he do last week? I did not look at his stats at all.
He was on the field. He played the same number of snaps as ETN. He got out touched, but with Trevor Lawrence going down, if you saw that,
Did you see that hit? Did you see that
hit?
cheap artist hit?
And he tried to say it was a bang bang play. There was nothing bang bang about it.
He's suspended for 3 games too, so I'm glad he's.
But now they're going to have to. But Jacksonville's going to have to lean on the run, right? Because they're going to throw Mac Jones out there, so they're going to run the ball more. I think that's a good one. McNichols split carries with Brian Robinson in the game against in the Commanders game this past weekend against Tennessee. So he's getting equal time. I think he's worth a pickup if you're struggling at running back, or if you're one of those. If you have Derrick Henry or Javonte Williams, or pick Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson. They're all on buys, but McNichols is on a buy this week too, so you have to take that into consideration. At quarterback, Bryce Young has been playing well. I still don't trust him enough to put him up there, but if you're in a buy, like in one of my leagues, I have Drake May and Anthony Richardson, and they're both on a buy in my Superflex Dynasty League, so I have to throw them out there. And then I think Romeo Doubs is probably my favorite wide receiver option. He was ruled out last week, missed the Thanksgiving game, but he's coming back. He's already practicing for this week. So I think he'll be in that game against the Lions. It's at the Lions, so it's in the Dome. It's going to be a shootout, so you're going to see both teams throwing a lot. I like Romeo Doubs.
I like the Romeo Doubs. I mean, the quarterback position, I think, for waiver wire is probably the deepest. Do you agree? I mean, you have guys like Jameis Winston on waiver. I mean, he's only owned in like 10% of the leagues. I don't even it's that much. Drake May. If he has a favorable matchup, he could be a good start. And we talked about Russell Wilson, but again, it just shows you like
don't forget Caleb Williams, who kind of looked really good in that second half against the Lions. And they fired their coach. Sometimes you get that bump afterwards. He's got good receivers. We know that. So Caleb Williams is somebody who, if you need a reliable backup or in a super flex, a reliable second quarterback, he's a guy to go for.
Somebody who got hurt during the Saints game was our guy.
Taysom Hill.
Jason Hill. He's out. But Jawan Johnson.
Hi, Tommy V.
Jawan Johnson could be a good pickup, maybe at the tight end position, just because he'll be getting all the passes now, obviously, and he'll be the main tight end in New Orleans. I think you'll see Derek Carr throwing the ball a lot more than the running game. That's been somebody else at tight end I like is Pat Fairmouth is not owned in 60% of the leagues. He had a touchdown last week. He's been a favorite receiver for Russell Wilson.
2 straight games with double-digit fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, again, we always complain, there's no one out there in tight ends. That's not true. There's plenty of tight ends out there that you can pick up, because I'm sure you're sick of Kyle Pitts. He's not performing for you, Casey.
Oh my gosh, I have him in Dynasty. I know.
Oh, huge bust. Somebody's just all I do is catch touchdowns. Who am I quoting? All I do is catch
Chris Carter.
God, you're good, Casey Scheinfeld. I don't need
circa 1997 for
all
the
I do is
Minnesota
catch touchdowns. Great quote, Casey. I can't stump you. Nick Westbrook Ikin. Did I say it right? Akine.
He's got 20 receptions on the year, but 8 of them are touchdowns. It's crazy.
I mean, how crazy is that touchdown stat? I mean, all he does is catch touchdowns.
Now I worry about him because how sometimes it feels like you're chasing points that have already happened.
I get it.
He's so boom or bust. And now I know, but 20 receptions, 40% of his catches have been touchdowns seems unsustainable. But Will Levis is actually playing pretty well right now. He's only thrown 2 picks in the last 4 games. They have favorable matchups against the Jaguars twice, the Bengals, and the Colts. So those are not bad teams to throw on. And, so Will Levis is not a bad streamer right now. If you need one going in against Jacksonville, and you can get Calvin Ridley and Akine.
Have you seen his mayonnaise commercial he has?
Yes. Yeah. He even has a mayonnaise scented cologne, I think.
I thought of you when I saw the mayonnaise commercial, because you were so deep in Will Levis before the year. Somebody else that we talked about that had a pretty good game and he's still not owned that much in fantasy, is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and
Yep.
he plays for the Saints right now, and he's catching touchdowns, he's getting yards, he's getting targets. What's your take on him? Is it somebody that you're targeting this week, or are you just staying away?
Is it somebody I'm targeting? I don't know if I'm in a buy situation. Yeah, I guess I would, because this is what 3 out of the last 4 weeks he's been productive.
Yeah.
And
Somebody
so
else,
I
Casey.
think you have to.
I like him. I might start him even over some of the guys that have been underperforming on my team, that haven't really done much this season. I don't like putting Scanlon in there just because, Carr threw 1 touchdown pass last week and it was to Scanlon. So,
And it seems they're all going to, yeah.
What's your take on it? Like every season, we always like throw his name away, no thoughts. We don't draft him, and we just he's too old. He's not going to do anything this year. And here we go, Adam Thielen of the Carolina Panthers.
He's like that.
I mean, would you pick this guy up? Is it somebody that you would put on your?
I certainly would prefer. I would prefer Xavier Legette because his ceiling is so much higher and he's such a dynamic athlete with the ball in his hands. Bryce Young, maybe that benching was what he needed. He's not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's looking like a number 1 pick. He's certainly not, but he's serviceable right now and he's getting some fantasy points. And Adam Thielen is like that warm security blanket. Like he knows that if Adam Thielen is running this route, he's going to be right here at this time, and I can just release it in that direction, and he'll either come down with it or it'll be, incomplete. He's not going to be a run after the catch guy much at all, but he's, old. He's old faithful, old reliable there.
Well, they play the Eagles this week. Pretty tough.
So they're going to have to put up points.
Your Eagles are playing. I'm not saying they're your Eagles. I know you're a Giant fan, but you live in the area, so I got to say your Eagles. I'm sorry.
It's really fun as a Giants fan watching Saquon Barkley be the fantasy MVP this year.
I think it's like a nightmare, isn't it?
Man, it is. And Daniel Jones being released and signing with the Vikings, all because that's who you wanted. You prioritize signing over our boy.
Coming from LA, I know a lot of people are up on him, and he did get a lot of carries last week. Is Blake Corum, the Michigan Wolverine star rookie? I know he has Williams ahead of him, but from what
I heard, and I don't know I haven't confirmed it. I don't have any sources inside the Rams locker room or anything. It was Corum started the game and got the first 5 carries as punishment, I think, to Kyren Williams for his fumbling issues. And so if you noticed, when Kyren Williams then came in, he got the next 13 carries and ran like an animal.
I saw that.
So I think I don't think it's going to be.
But remember, Corum averaged. Yeah, but listen, it's just about. I'm just saying stats and facts. That's all I talk about here. I should do a show called Stats and Facts. What do you think about that?
I'll watch.
Write that one down, Casey Scheinfeld. Stats and Facts. We'll do that. But he had 8 carries and he averaged 5.3 yards a carry, which is pretty good in football.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 42 yards.
But if he didn't,
rushing.
That's great. But if he didn't get into the end zone, that's 43. That's 4 points.
That's true.
And if they're not going to give him the goal line work, because Kyren Williams, let's be honest, he scored a touchdown in like the first 7 games. He's got a nose for the end zone when they get in the red zone. Corum's not going to take that work away from him. And so if he's not catching balls and if he gets 10 carries for 55 yards, that's 5.5 yards a carry, which is great, but it's 5.5 fantasy points.
And your boy Cuss Edwards is not
a bust.
He's averaging like 2.9 yards.
He stinks right now. Yeah.
And their running game is just imploded. I mean,
no, but Ladd McConkey seems to be he got 50% of the targets, had over 100 yards.
I watched that. I watch a lot of game on Red Zone. They show when they're in the red zone, obviously. But I mean, that guy's good, and that guy is getting targets.
Great at
and
Georgia.
That guy next year, top 10 receiver next year in fantasy, yes or no?
No, top 20, but not top 10.
Okay. I tried to trick you there. It didn't work. Casey, who else are you picking up this week? that I should put in my little waiver wire thing?
If you need a tight end and Fryermuth's not available, Will Dissly is always an option. He seems to be a target
Will the
favorite
Thrill, yep, we like him.
of Herbert's in the red zone, so that's a good one. The wide receiver side, we talked about the two Carolina receivers, Leggett and Thielen. I think both of those are other options if you believe in Westbrook-Akine or don't believe in Westbrook-Akine. Those two guys can get some targets there. At the running back, there's Garendo and Tank Bigsby. I think we're getting to the point where the waiver wire is pretty thin for difference makers. Let's be honest, as we get close to the playoffs, most people are either starting their fantasy playoffs this week or next week. It's a bye-mageddon, it's six teams on bye. So you might have to be a little thin at certain positions and scrape for waiver wire picks. But there's not a tremendous amount. I think quarterbacks, as you said, are the deepest. I think Drake May is a good play going forward. He's off this week, but you can get him for the weeks after. We talked about Russell Wilson, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, if you can stomach it. I think Aiden O'Connell's not even a bad choice because I don't think he's a great quarterback, but the game script for for Las Vegas is always going to be, we need to catch up. And so they're going to throw the ball a lot. And Jacoby Myers, say what you want about him, turned into a really good wide receiver. He's not a true number one, but he does a nice job. And Brock Bowers, to me, he's not talked about enough for Rookie of the Year. His numbers are insane on the season. He's the number one receiver there. He keeps topping 100 yards. It feels like at least 50% of the time. Jaden Daniels is great. Bo Nix is great, but Brock Bowers has been the maybe the most consistent rookie of all of them.
They can't guard him. I watched some of the Raider game when they played Kansas City on Friday, and he was like the only bright spot, receiving. Myers had an okay game, but Brock gets targets.
He reminds me a little bit of who was the Saints receiver a few back? Jimmy, but the Saints tight end from back in the day.
No idea. I remember Dave Casper of the Raiders. I thought you were going to say Dave Casper, but you didn't bring that name up. The Saints tight end. No, I don't know. That's a good quiz question.
I'll think of it.
I don't know. I'm not a Saints expert. Thank God. Let's talk defenses. A lot of teams are not playing this week, so a lot of defensives have to be either you have already on your team or you have to go out in the waiver wire and pick somebody up. So let me give you three defenses I like this week. I like who are under 60%. So I'm not going to give even 50%, I'll say. I don't want to give you defenses that are already taken in your league, obviously. The New Orleans Saints are at
Jimmy Graham. I'm sorry, I thought of it.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy Graham.
It reminds me a little bit of Jimmy Graham, who just always seems to get open. Yeah.
I like that guy. So the Saints are playing at the Giants, Casey. I like that play for the Saints. I think they'll get some interceptions. I think they'll get some turnovers. I think the Giants have just packed it in for the season. I hope they care that much. I see the Saints being a big defensive team. Another team that, again, I don't love it, but just if you need a team, Arizona Cardinals are at home against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, the offense has not been looking that great. Arizona is a first place team, giving them a little respect, Casey. And I like Arizona a lot this week, just because if you need somebody. And somebody else, I'll say it, Miami Dolphins are at home against the Jets. And the Jets.
How bad do the Jets look right now?
I used to be a fan of Aaron Rodgers. Now I just think he's he's insane. And
he's holding on for the sake of holding on. Yeah. Who you didn't mention is the Tennessee Titans. If you need to stream somebody this week, they're going at home against Jacksonville, who just lost their quarterback.
The Titans gave up so many points last week. There was like a disaster.
I know, but that was at Washington against a much better
40
team.
Points away. I know, but it's just kind of embarrassing. That's all. But and then Tampa Bay is playing at home against Vegas. Anytime Vegas is on the road, it's a disaster.
What about Cincinnati at Dallas?
Oof. No,
they're going to be the highest rush look good.
That could be the
game of the week.
Could be the highest scoring game of the year. with Cincinnati's offense and their defense.
Well, that
and Dallas.
Cincinnati-Baltimore game was tough to beat. What was it, 44-38? So
Yeah, that was bad too. But just throwing the defenses out there because, again, folks, we're on a bye week for 6 teams, is it, or 4 teams?
6 teams.
6 teams are on bye week. This is it, right? There's no more bye weeks after this, correct?
No, this is the last of the bye weeks. Yep.
Whew. I mean, it's just I'm sick of these bye weeks. It's killing me. Casey, well, that's our waiver wire show.
Yeah, there's not a lot today.
There's not. We just want to give everybody has to set their waiver wire picks up by tonight because at midnight everybody finds out who they get. But I'm sure you're right. I'm sure Isaac's going to be the number one
and certainly
guy
should
picked.
be.
I mean, everybody and their mother's going to try to get him because he's somebody that can win you the playoffs and take you far and he should be a 100-yard guy, right? And a touchdown every week, correct?
Yep. Wait, we have a question. Nino Pena, deadlines this week. So should I keep depth for the playoffs or trade out my depth for a stud? I trade out your depth for a stud. The depth doesn't do you any good in the playoffs unless you have guys who are injury prone. If you're willing to bet that your guys won't get hurt, I would trade my depth to somebody who needs players. Certainly with a week of 6 byes, there's going to be teams that are desperate for players who are trying to make the playoff push. Give them a 3-for-1, give them whatever you have in depth and get somebody that just makes you a little bit better because 4 or 5 points per week difference is huge. So I would do that.
And some of these teams, like example, Cincinnati Bengals, who have nothing to play for, basically, they're not making the playoffs. So don't even say playoffs. I think like guys like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are totally going to try to pad their stats.
I could see that. Like I would trade the house for Jamar Chase right now. Yeah, I mean
Jamar Chase, I think he wants a big contract. The Bengals are, still haven't done it. But guys like that, I like him a lot for the
sure.
He may not play week 17. He might fake an injury, but the rest of the time he's going to be padding his stats. I mean, he's the number one receiver in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Am I correct, Casey?
Yes. And I mean, try to get a Saquon Barkley. Try to get somebody who's up there near the top in everything.
Derrick Henry.
Try to get Jaden Daniels if you can as a quarterback, or get one. Josh Allen is going to be trying. He's still fighting to get that first round bye, that number 1 seed in the playoffs. So they're not going to take their foot off the gas until they know they can't get the first seed in the playoff in the AFC.
Yeah. And it's, and also we have a lot of
an Amon-Ra St. Brown or somebody like that.
Yeah, there you go. Good advice, Casey Scheinfeld. I like that a lot. Even who else? I mean, I think there's other guys that are going to have like a good second half, like a guy like a Kyrie Murray. I mean, they're in first place.
Kyler Murray could be. Yeah, they're in that West fighting for playoff seeding.
I mean, I like him a lot. I think he'll have a good second half.
He hasn't been consistent enough for me. I worry that he doesn't have a number 2 wide receiver. Michael Wilson is very good. Trey McBride is awesome. MHJ has been turning it on a little bit here the past few weeks, but unless Kyler Murray commits more to running the ball, I'd rather have Jaden Daniels.
I like that. Okay, Case, that's our show. We'll see everybody on Thursday, 1:00. Dr. Dan Ratner time. Correct?
Allegedly. We'll see.
He's not writing his book on fantasy football, but we'll see what he's doing. So we'll see everybody next week, but thanks for watching.